Okay. Call the May 17th, 2021 City Council meeting to order. Due to COVID-19 concerns and social distancing recommendations, this meeting will be open to the public with limited seating available in the council chambers and also by electronic means. Under Iowa Code Section 21.8 outlines the guidelines to hold an electronic meeting when there are valid concerns that are in person and are impossible or impractical. Roll call.
Caitlin Hartman.
Here.
John Hawkins.
Here.
Matt McKinney. Here. Brian Miller.
Here.
Logan Welch.
Here. Call for motion to approve the agenda with removal of item 6. So moved. Second. All those in favour say aye. Aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. Motion approved. Pledge of allegiance. Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Okay. Item A is petitions, communications, and requests. This is the time of the meeting that a citizen may address the council on agenda not on a matter not on the agenda, no more than 5 minutes per person. Except in case of emergency, the City Council will not take any action at this meeting, but may ask city staff to research the matter, or have the matter placed on the agenda for a future meeting. Anyone have any? I have a ladies here for the proclamation for the Poppy Day, May 28th, 2021. Evening, ladies. I, John Hawkins, Mayor of the City of Webster City, do hereby proclaim that date of May 28, 2021 as Poppy Day in Webster City, Iowa, and ask that all citizens may tribute to those who have made ultimate sacrifice in the name of freedom by wearing the memorial poppy on this day. Thank you. Thank you. Do you want a copy of it?
Oh, that would be nice. Thank you for that.
Okay, B, minutes and funds. The following items have been deemed non-controversial routine actions to be approved by the council on a single motion. If a council member or a member of the audience wishes to have an item removed from this list, we consider it in its normal sequence on the agenda. Item 1 is minutes of May 3rd. Item 2 is a resolution on payroll for the period ending May 8th and paid on May 14th, 2021. And item 3 is a resolution on bills and fund list.
Move to approve 1 through 3 collectively.
Second. All those in favour say aye.
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 Opposed, same sign. Motion approved. C, general agenda. Not quite there. So we'll go. Item 2 is a call for motion setting a time and place for a public hearing on budget amendments for the 2020-2021 budget for June 7th at 2020. June 7th, 6:05 p.m.
Does anyone have questions?
Nothing. We're just setting the date. So.
Yep.
So moved.
Second. All those in favour say aye.
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 Opposed, same sign. Motion approved. Item 3 is recommended approval for issuance of a beer and liquor licenses by the Iowa Department of Commerce for the following. A is a Class C liquor license, 5-day license for annual event to be held June 12th at St. Thomas Aquinas at 1010 Des Moines Street. B is a Class E liquor license, Class B wine permit, Class C beer permit, and Sunday sales for High V at 823 2nd Street. And C is a Class E liquor license, Class B wine permit, Class C beer permit, and Sunday sales for Casey's General Store number 1828 at 1300 Second Street.
Move to approve.
Second.
All those in favour say aye.
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 Same sign. Motion approved. We'll go back to, item 1, public hearing, 6:05 PM. Public hearing on an application for voluntary annexation located west of the corporate city limits of the city of Webster City, Iowa. Are there any written objections?
I do have one written objection from Douglas and Pamela Ryan, which I believe he's going to read that, so.
Did you, we'll do, you can be part of the oral objections then. So, those have oral objections, you want to come up? Yep, come up to the podium, you can take it.
My name is Doug Ryan. I'm here with my wife Pam. We live at 1618 230th Street in Hamilton County.
That's all right, doesn't work, Carla.
Oh, it doesn't?
It takes up all this.
This one was pandemic mode.
In Hamilton County, and we would be affected by the resolution to annex the property that is under discussion. We'd like to thank the City Council for the opportunity to voice our opposition to the proposed annexation resolution before the body. We sent each of you an email dated April 11, listing some of our objections to the proposed voluntary annexation of our property by Webster City. And I'd like to use part of my time to read that email into the record of the meeting, and also in case you didn't have an opportunity to read it. Like I said, it was dated April 11th. To the City of Webster City Council members, last week we received a certified letter informing us that in response to an application from Revez Farms, Inc., the City of Webster City is considering voluntary annexation of the Revez-owned property, and that involuntary annexation of our property would be included. Our search of information regarding what this would mean to us resulted in us being told that this has been discussed for several months, and that the County Board of Supervisors has already decided it is in favor of the action. This alone is inappropriate and disrespectful, that the decision could reach this level of progress with no notice to us. We have lived in this home for 31 years, choosing to purchase the country home and remaining members of this community when other forces in our lives might have pulled us away. We wanted to raise our family here. We wanted our grandchildren to experience this type of environment also. We wanted to retire here. With those goals, we have paid our mortgage and invested a lot of additional money to upgrade this home in a manner respectful for this classic country house. Now, people we have had no choice in coming to office, you all, can make a decision that will affect our retirement. It could change our fixed income budget by increasing our property tax rate with no physical benefit to us. The value of our major asset, our home, would be at the mercy of whatever development may at some point happen around us. At any point in the future, we could find ourselves transitioned from a peaceful country home to a construction zone. Reassurances that nothing is planned at this time are meaningless when it has already been demonstrated to us that anything can happen. If this change pushes our decision to leave the community, marketing our home would become difficult because potential buyers would not know what environment they would be purchasing for their family. We ask you to consider how you would feel if this was happening to yourselves or members of your family. The city has no immediate need for this property. There are many other areas that are already within the boundaries of the city available for development. We do not want this annexation to move forward. And then we signed it and sent it to you. The first thing I'd like to address is the secrecy behind this proposal. We've learned that the certified letter we received from Webster City, which was the first communication of the proposed annexation, was dated the very same day as the approval by the Hamilton County Board of Supervisors. We believe this lack of transparency by the Board of Supervisors regarding the future of our property is unfeeling at least, and possibly illegal at most. As we explained in our email to you council members, we have lived in our home for over 31 years. Our rural location provided the opportunity for our children to experience things that would not be possible if we lived in a developed residential area of Webster City. We want our grandchildren to have the same opportunity. Our property is large enough to accommodate several sheep that the grandchildren could fuss with, or a pony that they could ride. Again, these opportunities are not possible inside Webster City. Webster City does not need any more undeveloped rural acres. This undeveloped land within the current boundaries, there is undeveloped land within the current boundaries east of us on Wall Street. There's undeveloped land east of the Van Diest Medical Center, and there's approximately 320 undeveloped acres south of Highway 20 and east of Beach Street, as well as approximately 640 acres along Briggs Woods Road, bounded by the Boone River to the east. And as I saw tonight, looking at the map, there's also a lot of other undeveloped area that is already within the city limits. All this land is waiting to be developed. Webster City does not need our rural acreage in order to fulfill a need for more housing. Now, we understand that the biggest attraction of this proposed takeover is the increased tax revenue for Webster City. We get that. Every municipality would like to have increased money to spend. We know our property taxes would go up if this resolution is approved, possibly as much as a 50% increase according to the Hamilton County Assessor. And what would we be getting for this additional unplanned impact to our household budget as we enter our fixed income retirement? We already have fire and police protection. Will Webster City now plow the road we live on? We doubt it, since city plows don't work out to the existing city limits now, stopping where the concrete surface stops on Wall Street. Will Webster City extend the 25-mile-an-hour speed limit out to the new city boundary and monitor that section for speeders? We doubt that as well, since the current section of 230th Street, with the reduced speed limit, has both commercial and private vehicles violating the posted speed limit countless times each day. In addition, assuming this resolution is approved, our taxes would increase due to actions of a body chosen in an election in which we were disenfranchised. That sounds like a clear case of taxation without representation to us. It is stated in the Webster City Planning Director's memorandum dated May 5, 2021, quote, "It has not been the city's policy to involuntarily annex land," unquote. If you pass this resolution, the annexation of our home will be involuntary. The Iowa Code states that small parcels of land, quote, "may," unquote, be involuntary annexed to avoid honors within city boundaries, but it does not say that this must be done. We may not be the wealthiest or largest landowner in the parcel of land being considered, but we are landowners, and we do not want our property annexed. This action seems to us to be a case in which the wealthy and the powerful are attempting to dictate to others less powerful. Before you approve this resolution, please consider that at some time in the future, you might find yourself in a similar situation as the little guy. If the council really wants to do the best thing for Webster City, it should work every day to attract businesses that will fill the empty storefronts on 2nd Street and attract jobs so people have a reason to stay in Webster City or move to town instead of snatching up more undeveloped rural acres for development that probably will never happen. We'd like to wrap up our time with a very short story. Our daughter, who grew up at our home outside Webster City and graduated from Webster City High School, and her family were visiting from Minneapolis. She and I were returning home from buying donut holes at Fuse Bakery. As we left town, driving west, she said to me, totally without any prompting, quote, "I'm glad I grew up someplace where you can see," unquote. In conclusion, we oppose the proposed resolution to annex the undeveloped land west of Webster City for the reasons we've stated above, and ask you to vote with our position and vote against the resolution. Thank you for your time.
Thank you. Anyone else have an oral objection?
Does he need to go first?
Yes.
Sorry.
I heard it, but I'm just against the whole plan.
Hi, I'm Mark Roberts, live around the edge of Webster City, kind of the city limits all the way around me, and we've been out there for just now 20 years and seen a lot of different things, and like I said, we're out of the city limits, and we were offered water 15, 18 years ago with a Xenia, but the city said, no, you can't have it. We're going to give it to them. Well, I come downtown and talk to them about getting us water. Well, they give me some options. They were 2,000 feet away. They wanted me to go across underneath the road, across the creek, up to the summit or whatever it is up there, or to go, but I had to get land through Paducah, and I'm like, no. I said, well, we'll bring it to you. Well, now it's been 18 years, still see no water. But I will say, Carla said they did run it through. It is now available across the street from me. So I would have to bore, down my drive or down my road and get, but I don't have sewer. So I guess my thought is my taxes right now are $2,400. And if you guys do vote this and annex me in, they're going to go to almost 6,000. So I'm going to over double my taxes. And I want to know what you're going to give me for that. I mean, what benefit do I get by paying an extra $300 a month? I can't see where I'm going to get anything, So I couldn't say it any better than he just did. He laid it out there pretty, right. I mean, I love where I live, and I just because one guy wants annexed in, I don't understand why you're throwing some of us in that really has nothing to do with anything, So I guess my thought is I'm just totally against it, as long as you are, you bring me some amenities, then maybe I'm interested. But really, right now, I can't see where annexing is going to gain me anything. So I guess that's really all I got to say, and I'm just against it, I guess. So that's why we're here today. Thank you.
Thank you. Yours is the house on the hill, right?
Yeah. Last one on Beach Street, before the right street.
So your recommendation, and I'm speaking to the two people that spoke, is that the city shouldn't expand unless you give us permission? And that, if someone voluntarily wants to help the city along with it, we should say no, because we have two people that decide that they would rather hold the city up. Or we should wait 20 years, or the city should never move into that area. What is your suggestion? What the city should never expand?
We've lived here 31 years.
Mm-hmm. City's been here a lot longer than 31 years.
We've seen no expansion out our direction as far as homes being built, even within the city limits. And the map clearly shows.
That map's not up to date at all. But,
Well, you probably haven't given the land back that are shown as being included within the city boundaries. there's sections of land, potentially 1,000 acres or more within the city limits right now, that if you want to develop, you've already got that land. How the landowners that would be involved in those parcels would feel, I don't know. But
you'd rather pick on him than yourself.
speaking for me, sure, I'll be selfish and say, not in my backyard. Don't you feel that way sometimes about things?
I do at times, yeah.
Yeah, I think we all do. That's why I'm here tonight.
I'm Darrell Hayray out city limits, and I got invited here, I guess. I got a letter, but I don't understand. I've been out there 32 years, and
You probably need to go up there, Darrell.
I don't want to go.
So they can hear you on the screen.
They can hear me, but Van East made a very big investment out there. Roads got changed. We used to be able to walk cattle up and down that gravel road, a quiet neighborhood. The city has already done some things that has increased the traffic out there to no benefit to the county people on that road. And they've got some pretty good points here. You guys make the choice because of one landowner, but you dump it on really the only two that are paying taxes in that. Things should be considered how they are now, and if it gets developed, then you talk to these people and don't the extra burden on them. But I don't know if you guys think that way. I don't know if I understand everything that's being annexed in. I look at it, I use it, I visit with the revises, and I don't understand how these two properties can be told that they're getting annexed in without being asked. I don't know how your process works. I totally understand you're basically getting a gift that you're, in all reality, any of us would take advantage of, but when you're putting your tax loads and refiguring taxes, I think that should be considered, down the road, because I agree, how many times is there going to be a housing development on Wall Street right to the west?
Well, I want to say something too. If you make a point of it, most of it's all creek and, half of it can't even be developed.
Which is the creek section.
It's all the creek section. It's all,
The creek.
if you take that section, over half of it's wetland. It's floodplain land. You can't develop any of that. That's kind of my point. What good does it do? There's no real, there's a little up in here, and you've got some on top, and there's some on between them and the carpenters, but the rest of it's just all lowland, I don't see how that's a development area.
And it's got a different tax base. Each one of those 40s has got a different tax base. That flatland's got a different tax base, but I don't know if the city, if they tax everything, every square foot or every acre. I don't understand, like right now, I know that timber ground is tax based less than a flat ground.
We're not doing this because we're trying to, we're not gonna make very little money out of this thing. So it's not like we're doing it because we're gonna write some big amount of money. We're doing it purely because the landowners offered us a voluntary annexation, which means that while his reasoning was that, because he lived and made most of his living from Webster City, that it was given back to the city by voluntarily, annexing his land. Now, yes, we could say, well, let's not do that. Let's wait 30 years and then see who owns the land and see if they will. And the thing is that, the way it is now, one guy owns it, and he can do that, and is doing it. Whereas in the future, it might be 5 different owners, and the city may never be able to get that annexed because they'll refuse to do it.
So have we ever ran into a situation like this?
Yes.
And additionally, I guess, is it possible to wait? Like, just on those locations? And I'm asking legally, I don't know.
You can't.
Yeah, I think there's somewhat of confusion that may help clarify is that the way a voluntary annexation works is the property owner makes an application to the city. So they came to the city and said, here is my application for voluntary annexation. I want to be annexed into the city. Then the city takes it up at that point. That's what the public hearing is for. So it's not like, I don't want you to think that the city went out and approached the landowner and said, we want you into the city. They make the application. It's the exact opposite. So they're saying, take me into the city, and now it's the city's duty to hold the public hearings, to give the notices, do all that stuff, to follow the rules that are set out, and then take it up.
So what Brian's asking is it possible not to annex
No.
landowners outside of until?
If you read the code section, it's 387, it just says that 80%, if the property owner owns more than 80%, so that there's less than 20% property owners that if there's less than 20 in that area, to not create an island to give, what's the word, boundary? Uniform boundaries, you bring them into the voluntary annexation. Well, it just says.
You must for, islands.
Territory comprising railroad or territories comprising not more than 20% of the land area may be included in the application without the consent of the owner to avoid creating an island or to create more uniform boundaries. And on the, what's it called, the City Development Board, Carla and I sat down last week to go through like all their requirements, and one of the questionnaires on there is that does by annexing it, have you created any islands or are you creating a uniform boundary? That's why they get brought in. It's just purely on where their location at. They make up less than 20% of all the property, and we're not purposely creating an island or non-uniform boundaries at that point in time.
So with the tile agreement, he asked a good question. I've done 100 of them. If you've got 50% of the landowners or 75% of the land, you can't stop a tile agreement. So acreages are automatically included because they're all in the county project.
Yep.
This is a kind of a different situation. Of the, 172 whatever acres, is one landowner, and I know you didn't go ask for it, he's wanting to do it.
Right.
But that doesn't include the, say right now, two that are not involved. Why does that automatically throw them into the city? That's where I don't know where the.
Yeah, and that's where I was trying to get at. It's just that purely it's a numbers game. He makes up the area is 80%. And like I said, it could be one owner, it could be 10 owners. I mean, I don't know who made the application. He just happens to be over 80%. I think it's like 88%, is that right?
We're at 12%
Yeah.
additional, and everything else is his.
Yeah, so 88% is.
But as you said, it may be done involuntarily to avoid these islands and achieve uniform boundary. It doesn't say it must be done.
Yeah, the word is meant, yeah, right. May be included applications without consent or to avoid creating an island or to create more uniform boundaries.
You cannot, it's prohibited to create islands
So when you annex
by
it
state
in,
code.
do you annex the 172 that you're offered plus their property? So it's,
Yeah. Yeah, the total annex is how much? How many acres?
196.
But
So and once it's annexed, then that kind of takes the hands of the.
Right.
Then they're at the city's mercy because they've been taken out of the county tax. So I'm just asking what's your, because right now they're, it's no, I understand how the process works, but yes, if it happens, then it's out of the county's hand, and then they're basically at the city's mercy, right?
to your point about creating islands, since both of these properties front a road, it's not going to be an island.
Doesn't affect you, it affects Roberts. Because city limits are across the road from them.
Right, so that.
Yeah, but they front Beach Street.
It's in the
Right,
city
and across
limits.
Beach Street is
Beach Street
city
is
limits.
city limits.
Isn't it the center of the road, period?
It's still the city limits. So if the city would be completely, he would absolutely be an island.
It's a city street.
Your road wouldn't be city limits, your property would, right?
I didn't hear you.
His road won't be city limits, the property limit,
Property, yeah, right across the street.
which makes it a non-highway. I get what they're saying.
Yeah. That's why Daryl got noticed, is because Daryl is across the street, so he's not in the annexed area, he's just an adjoining property owner.
Actually, 482 feet east of my property is considered city limits.
Yeah.
Because that road's supposed to come through from, that one out to the west could potentially come through there.
Yeah.
Out past, I call it size, so so if this would happen, that would basically put that line 482 feet east of me or whatever, to that, so that 230th Street would turn into Wall Street out to there potentially in the future.
Also, we get a new address.
No, it would stay the same.
Probably do it the same.
So potentially we could, Robert's property can't be removed from it, because it'd be correct and all.
Because of the bottom of the property, the property further south, correct? That's what creates the island.
You've got a map of it there in the south. You want to show the council?
It's in your packet.
Yeah, I gave it all to you.
Page 43, attachment B.
So
So
it
the
shows
section
the,
that's closest to Beach Street and further south, that creates the island. Yeah, it's two different parcels.
whereas the other property would not necessarily create an island.
No,
But it still would
because-
not be the uniform
because it's
boundaries.
But it wouldn't-
What is their definition of uniform boundaries?
When I talked to the Economic Development Authority today and went over this, because this will go on to Des Moines to the City Development Board. No matter what the council decides, they get final say, basically. Because we're including consenting owners and non-consenting, so they get the final say. Everything that they went over on my map, they said that they would definitely go along with. Creating more uniform boundaries would be so your city limits don't include this jog of the rectangle. It would just go straight across. And I'm not saying we don't have some other weird parts in town, but
That was my next question. There's
not
other
like,
places
I mean,
that
that's
are
what,
convenient.
going forward, we gotta stop.
Is there
But-
any way, sorry, go ahead.
But the Roberts would be an island because of city limits across the street.
So what can we get out of that then? Other than paying my taxes? Do we get city water, do we get city sewer?
The city water is there for you now, isn't it?
We
On
don't
the
have,
other
we have a
side of the
well, we
street.
don't, yeah.
Well, it's on the
Yeah, I mean,
other
you-
side on a lot of streets for
But I
people.
think you can go and look up to it if you wish.
So we have to,
Well, everybody in town has to pay to hook up their own place. The city
Even
will
what's
hook
across
up-
the street.
Even if it's across the street. That's normal, I mean, that's,
Well, I understand, water runs down our streets, just happens to be on the other side.
I think Wall Street is the same way. I think it's on the.
But what about sewer? Are we gonna see sewer at some point?
we're not required to supply you with it. But, I don't know.
I don't even know where sewer is
I
at.
don't think that's.
Sewers on,
I know it runs down the creek, but I don't.
yeah,
It's
it's
not
on
on
Wall
Tasker.
Street.
Is it?
It goes straight across Tasker's Pond, it goes straight across to the water.
That was unique, my place, you know.
A couple of questions to clarify. So you're saying it goes to the state board of Des Moines, regardless of our vote?
Because it's both voluntary and we've included non-consenting.
So,
No, not regardless. Did you say regardless of the vote?
right,
No.
It has, with ours, it has to go.
Right, yeah, it has to go once it's approved by the council, then it goes. to
Yeah.
the state
Okay.
board.
But don't approve it.
They are the final say. on it.
that's the clarification I want.
And they hold a public hearing also.
We're not a box check. We're still a valid body.
Yeah.
And so, I was kind of both ways on this, everybody. I've been kind of battling this a lot in my head, and to be honest, when Pam, you reached out to me, shortly after you got the letter, and I know I've known you for years from the school system. But the mayor has some points when it comes to the growth of our city, and let me explain. Our city is only so big and our borders get bunched up and bumped into each other. And we do have to expand. I do feel there is other land available for development. I do feel Webster City will expand and swell over time. I feel that's part of our duty to grow, to make that expansion and that swelling. Otherwise, we're basically just kind of, living within our cage, our walls. So expansion in some aspects are good. Now, I'll kind of tell you kind of why I've been the other way on that decision. I'm a small town. I grew up in the country, a similar, environment you gave your children. I actually grew up south of town. I never lived inside of town until after I graduated college. I was always part of the community, but I never lived in it. So I consider you part of the community, even though you never technically lived in it or voted for it, like you mentioned in your opposition, which I totally understand. Tonight before the meeting, I went home and I talked to my wife, and she's like, "Well, where are you going on this?" I'm like, "I don't even know if I can tell myself yet where I'm going on it." And she just grabbed my arm and she just goes, "Well, just, you know where I stand." And I'll leave it at that until we do go and vote. But I just want you to know it takes a lot of courage to come up here and say your piece and defend your property. And I totally respect that, and I totally honor the courage and the time you gave to, again, defend your backyard. So I appreciate it.
Well, I mean, I feel for both of you. I feel a little more for Doug because he's clear out there. You guys are right on the edge, so it hurts a little less in my mind, but I get what you're saying. I guess legally or in any way, can we do something where we delay their particular pieces of land until development happens? I'd be inclined to do that if we could. I just don't know if we can.
No, I mean, I think you have to take up, are you asking like to make it,
I mean, their point is.
like putting it on the back, just that chunk?
Yeah, I'm just
I don't know.
asking to ask. If it's something we could do, I would like to do it. I don't know if it's
You don't understand
unprecedented.
You don't understand the island part of it.
I get the island part. The island part makes sense. Doug's piece, that's not an island, doesn't fall that thing, so it makes less sense to me. Yeah, it doesn't look pretty and square, but.
Right. Yeah, the application application for voluntary annexation that is signed off on by the Revez includes the property then there.
What about this option? Could we go back to Revez and say thank you, but we'd actually like a little less? Thank you for your generosity, but could you sliver off, an east section and a north section, therefore making nice straight solid lines?
They want all or none.
Yeah,
They're trying to annex all their parcels on all the boundaries of the city right now. And we had to look, they've offered everything to us. And we had to look at where we felt would be the best and the most logical place for the city to grow. And this was it. They're trying to dispose of all their property.
So the city actually chose the section?
Out of all the ones that they gave us.
It wasn't just his offering, it was beyond that.
What?
It wasn't just his offering, there was also an active decision made by the city.
No, he offered it before he even gave us a petition with it. He offered everything to us.
you're saying,
But
he has more land than just this land, is what
Yeah.
you're saying. He offered multiple land.
Yeah.
Right?
and you're not taking of their land.
He has land like up on Apple, for example. I don't see any subdivisions growing out there at this point in time. And I shouldn't say me, P&Z has looked at it, and city attorney, we've all been involved in meetings with them. Lindsay's been in meetings. This was the best area for development at this point in time. Maple Street, he had some, up on, I call it Meadowwoods Blacktop. I don't know what street that really is.
What benefit does he get by annexing everything? I mean, why is he doing this? The
Because
property
he's
value.
dying.
But what is it benefiting him?
What I assume
He's
is,
giving back to the city, his home.
but what I would assume is the property value would go up.
Yeah, he's gonna
Open
pay
up
more taxes.
for more options for sale. Right now, a lot of his land is like hunting ground and he leases it out. And I have nothing against Revette. Revette delivered me. I have nothing against the guy. He was my family doctor for years. He's a great man. I love, you know, it just, I'm assuming there's a benefit here.
gotta be.
Yeah, on the other side. I'm not saying it's a bad thing, and it's a motivation behind everybody. You guys are worried about your taxes and your property value, right? Okay, so I'm considering it's
Yeah,
nothing
but they're
against
getting
it.
rid of their land all over, I mean, just because of Doc's help.
Sure, okay.
They are
No, no.
disposing of all their property.
So,
Yeah, and you're right, the easiest way to dispose of it, I mean, I'm
Right.
not speaking for Dr. Riggs, I didn't even talk, I've never talked to the guy more than hello, but, yeah, I mean, it's probably easier to dispose of it when it's in city.
yeah.
And if it's
More
in the
developable.
corporate limits, we
More-
control the development. If it's not, he can do whatever he wants out there.
No, because it's still within that 2 mile donut of control that the city has, where the city does have a say on what can be done with that.
Yeah, but he can come in with things that the city doesn't necessarily feel would be a good fit for our
I thought you had
community,
that
but it would still might be allowed.
Yeah, I thought you had 2 miles, you controlled everything within 2 miles of the city limit.
Right,
I
but
didn't hear
she's
what you said,
saying he
Mark.
could try to build something that we don't think's a good fit, is that what you're saying?
Yeah, but
within zoning regulations,
If you go within zoning,
Not all
then we still
zoning.
might not think it would be a good
Yeah, 'cause
fit.
he's probably not R1, it's probably is it R5 when it's in the 2 miles?
What it comes
could be
down,
A.
what it comes down to is, they
You
weren't
put a
gonna let me
hog
put
behind it.
senior water at my house. They were gonna make me run senior water, right across the street where my place is. They weren't gonna let me put senior water there. Well, I already had it there, I came in to tell them I was putting it there. And yes, the 2 miles jurisdiction, but they ended up, you changed it to within a half mile of 20, because it was going up to Van Dees, but my acres and acreages sit in the 2 mile jurisdiction. Well, the house to the west of me already tried to run a water line out of town, and it's never been hooked up because it's junk. And I'm damned if I was going to Beach Street to get city water when Senior brought it to my front yard. So, yes, there's a 2 mile jurisdiction. The city told me, no, I wasn't going to. But they came out, instead of having a 2 mile, because there was a water line going down 20 to Van Dees, they changed it to within a half mile either side of 20. So that's where the situation I had with it.
Yeah, and I'm guessing that the Xenia issue is because the city reserves so many spots around, within the 2 mile around town that are Xenia reserve spots for future growth that the city reserves back, and I'm guessing that's probably one of them. But-
So, I'm gathering a lot of the details now, and that's a kind of hard time understanding, so I apologize, you already, you told me that, all over Red's land, but if he's looking to annex all of it, I don't know why we couldn't negotiate a sliver back. If he still has a land we aren't interested in annexing, again, I know it might not make it as appealing to developers, but he still have access to Beach Street, that land, via county. If you slivered it back at it. All I'm getting at is, if someone came to my door and said, here's this, take all or nothing, and, oh, you gotta affect your neighbor a little bit, I just couldn't take that gift. I couldn't take that gift. So I just don't know why we can't talk to him about it, because we can't sliver it back south to retain, these properties that are passionate about remaining rural. And again, I know that the city's doing their job. Carla's doing exactly what we've asked her to do. Let's run out these opportunities and make sure they're legitimized and go through the steps to keep us safe and secure through this process. Same with the city attorney. They're not out to take your land. They're out to do their job. So I totally respect all the work being done there. So I'm not trying to undermine that at all. I'm just trying to get my head around what limits us from negotiating that back a little bit to make those nice, clean, straight lines.
I think, correct me if I'm wrong, I think what you're getting at is he's basically giving this land. He doesn't want that stuff. He doesn't want that, to have to deal with it.
Yeah, they want the west, that chunk to be in city limits. Yeah.
It might not, I think working with some of the stuff I've worked with, Zach, and I think you hit on it. I think, yes, you guys are doing your job. Like Zach said, after it happens, then you're basically taking it out of county rules, because county's got rules on their annexations and their easements and percent benefit of when we do it. Is that what you're saying, is after it gets out of, you've accepted the gift, whether you have, whether you haven't, then it goes into basically what you guys have in your set of rules. Then, and in fact, then that's when you have to make your choice to slugger it off. Do you go to the Ryans, go to the Roberts, negotiate? I
First of all,
understand the
it's not
annexation.
gonna be given to us, you know that.
No, not given, but like voluntarily annexed, like.
It's a voluntary annexation, but he's not giving us the
No, I
land.
totally understand.
Okay.
It's just saying, go to the, not where you wanna be in the city limits, right?
You're only commissioners of the property,
Right.
just like the supervisors are only commissioners. You, I
Right.
think,
But
Logan,
I'm sorry if I misspoken or misled. I by no means was under the impression that this was being gifted as in the sense that the land is owned by the city. I just mean, it takes a lot of red tape out of our path to obtain it as city zoned area, or city proper, you know. So that's what I meant by that sort of statement. But you did mention something that was interesting. So, say we did annex this, Webster City, we could essentially then zone it based on what's zoned around it. Like,
But it's probably already zoned, because it's in the 2 mile. That's what,
true.
that's what we're saying, is we're not really, I don't think we're adding any, Carla is the zoning director.
I think it's zone ag.
Yeah, that's what I'm guessing. It's probably zoned ag, and it'll remain zoned ag. That, it's already, that part of town has already been discussed and zoned by P and Z and all that stuff, probably in the comp plan and all that, because it's within that border, so you're already assuming there's growth there.
so the islands are gonna be affected because of the different utilities that are in your hands. Because anybody comes in there and develops now, they do what the city requires to develop it. These people, I guess the easy way to say it is, you're gonna go out there and say, okay, you have to have city water, you have to have city sewer, we're gonna bring it to you to whatever, say they put it down, whatever we wanna call it, Wall Street or 230th Street, they'll make it available for them to hook up to.
No, they don't have, no, they don't have to hook on.
But in the future, if it happens,
They would never have to, they would never be brought or told they have to hook on, only if it's a new development. This is already existing property, so they're not
But they
being,
would-
they have the opportunity, if it's available.
but it
Mark and Peggy's
would
house is-
but it would also, they wouldn't have a choice how you guys decide to tax it. Because right now, I'm guessing it's taxed. I know.
We don't choose how it gets taxed any.
Uh,
The assessors.
Yeah, I know, but
It's nothing to do with that.
but it's potentially could change those two
It
properties.
just, yeah, it's subject to the city's levy,
Yeah.
essentially, right?
And like you said, what are they getting for it?
The county's levy is at 27.98, and the city's levy is at 39.67. So it's like a
25%.
11-12% increase for
Anyone else have
taxes.
any more questions?
Yes, and 12% of 26 is about 50.
What?
And 12% of 26 is about a 50% increase.
I just got the levies.
Does that change with development, or how do you change the assessment? Say that housing development would go in across the street, and you ran the street out, and ran the sewer, and ran the water out, would that change do you do that with the development? I'm just asking.
Yeah, well, I'd tell you to ask Kevin, but Kevin doesn't work at the assessor's office anymore, but from what I've, in discussions with them, is that it's based on what your neighboring properties are. So like my assessment is based on what the neighboring properties in my area are picked up from. So that's how it's determined. So if there's not any property, if you're zoned ag, and you have ag around you, you would still be assessed at ag.
I was just curious, because they did a big ditch clean out, and Brewer Creek's not a title district, so I didn't have to pay near as much. I didn't know if it moved out, if that would, just asking.
Okay, well, moving on. So, if there's no further discussion, I'll close the hearing. Has anyone got any more important information to? So I'll close the hearing. So, I call for a motion on a resolution, consenting to the annexation of certain real estate to the city of Iowa.
Hogan Wall.
You need a motion first.
Hang on, we got a
Sorry.
motion. If anybody wants to make a motion? No, what, make a motion? So is this our third reading?
No,
Oh, this is just a reading.
Yeah. Yeah, if nobody,
Not a motion,
just dies for lack of motion.
it's for last
Okay. Moving on.
Item number 4.
Item 4 is council memorandum, second reading of proposed ordinance, an ordinance amending the code of ordinances of the city of Webster City, Iowa, 2019, enacted for the assistant city officials, and the regular committee to deal with the public health and safety issues and creating by confusion of a large number of people into the city when Des Moines Register annual rate bicycle ride across Iowa, ride arrived in Webster City on July 27th and departs on July 27th, 2021. Call for motion.
So, second.
All those in favour say aye.
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 Move to waive the third reading.
Second.
All those in favour say aye.
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 Move to pass and adopt.
So move.
Second.
All those in favour say aye.
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 Same sign. Okay. Item 5 is a council memorandum motion to approve request from Information Technology Director to purchase a new firewall by Sonic Wall for enhanced security from CST Combined Systems Technology for Clive, Iowa, in the amount of $5,913.74. This is above what he was budgeting for, correct?
Not much, but yeah.
Anyone have any questions on it?
I'll move to approve. Second.
All those in favour say aye.
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 Opposed, same sign. Motion approved. Item D, reports and recommendations of officers, boards and commissions. Council committee reports. Nothing. Don't really have anything.
Just a reminder of cleanup drop-off is June 4th and 5th, and take some volunteers if anybody wants to help out during those times we're having it.
I mean, you two,
What, volunteers? Sure.
just send your husband.
Okay. Cleanup, right?
Call for motion to adjourn.
So moved.
Second.
All those in favour say aye.
Aye.
Thank you. Good night.
Happens anytime.